I can see the sea. Hello everybody, it's me. Right, just a couple of things that I'd like to touch on. There's one. Sorry about that. Right, yeah, all it is a couple of things that come to my attention recently. What's been wonderful is catching up with people and talking to people about things. That's been fantastic, and just having conversations with people, sharing experiences, realising that things aren't as scary, or actually probably more normal than people realise, or more common than people realise, and also that there's nothing really to be embarrassed about. Or what does create the embarrassment, of course, is the fact that there's still a stigma attached to the words that they call, or the area called mental health. Now, my argument for that would be, like things like the Spastic Society, where they changed their name, and then the whole thing evolved, and so what brought up negative terminology is now gone, and you don't think about it. So I would argue that it'd be quite a good idea to start changing that area of sciences like neurosciences to the area of mind health rather than mental health. And I think that might help lose one of the stigmas just the connotation attached to the word mental, for example, because people have their own impression of mental. Obviously, years ago it'd be like Bedlam and places like that, and various other institutions and so forth, but that's people also on the mental health scale actually are as opposite ends to that would be just having issues, not just, but having issues with anxiety or general anxiety. But it all comes under the same umbrella at the moment. So if it has to come under that umbrella, change the wording from mental health to mind health. That's my first thing, world. That'd be lovely if you could do that. And then there'll be less stigma or embarrassment, and people would talk about it as they would with any other aspect of their health. If you talked about your renal health or your coronary health or whatever, people would talk about it, and you even tell your mates that. Family, obviously, friends, whoever. As soon as it comes to the area of how your brain functions when it comes to thinking, then there's big stigmas involved. But I think partly because it's what it can make people do, but the other part of it is the association between that and the Bedlam type environments, or far-end, high-end people on the mental health scale that really have terrible troubles and often sectioned for their own safety and the safety of others. Anyway, so I think that would help get rid of the stigma. The other thing to do with stigma is that a few people mention and talk about, it's really good to see exposure of vulnerabilities and things like that. It's like, okay, that's good. I don't see it as a vulnerability. I'm trying to say it is, clearly, but I don't see it as a vulnerability, although it obviously is. And again, the other attachment to that is the term, it was so brave of you to talk about it, or so brave of you to do a video and things like that. It's like, that to me is why we have the stigma still. Nothing wrong with saying a comment like that, but if you think about it, if you're saying that it's brave, well, you have to be brave before you can even talk about it, would suggest that there's an edge, or there's a sinisterness to it, there's a negativity, there's, it's something you can't talk about. So just by implication, by telling someone they're brave, to talk about what they're going through, or what they lived, or what they've been through and stuff like that, if you think about it, really shouldn't be regarded as brave. It should be praised. It should be regarded as good and fantastic, and can be helpful for others and so on. Just as it would, to encourage people to talk, because the quicker you get people to talk about it and themselves with the right people, or even with just friends to start off with, it's like addictions. When people start to admit and realise that they have it, and are prepared to admit that they have it, that's when they start the process of getting better. So it shouldn't really be called or phrased brave in my head. it should just be perfectly normal. And so you lose that edge and that stigma towards those conversations. It would be like, I've got cancer. I thought you should all know that, right? Which is a terrible thing. It's life-threatening. The thing is, what I was going to say was, the thing is that would I be brave to tell you that? Not really. So why would I be brave to tell you about something else that's wrong with me? See where I'm coming from? Point being, I don't have cancer at all. Okay? I don't mean to alarm anyone like that. It's just to illustrate in an extreme form the examples there of how people talk openly about certain illnesses. Obviously other people keep things quiet to themselves anyway, and that's their choice. So that's what I'd say. So, you know, if we start breaking those things that help keep the stigma there, and most people do it unintentionally, I think we might see a tiny bit of improvement, so that would be a good start. On that also, when it comes to stigma and things like that, in the area of healthcare, you know, you have doctors, and doctors, when they qualify and they become specialists, they then train for a few more years, study, really work on what they need to know in the particular field that they're going into, and we think nothing of it if you say things like, I don't know, oncologist, gynecologist. As soon as you say psychiatrist, people go, I thought, ooh, it's scary. There's a scariness, there's a worriness to it, there's an edge to it again that makes you think nutter, mental, whatever you think, okay? But the thing is, they are just a specialist, exactly the same as any of those other doctors that I mentioned. So if you needed something working on in your body and you get referred to a specialist, nothing to worry about, okay? So again, that's a stigma thing as well. You're just looking after your own health and you're seeing a specialist, a medical specialist. They're trained to do that, they know about the chemistry involved, and science has been fantastic over the last 2 decades. And I'll share an experience of mine, hopefully it won't get too windy, okay? But let me just share this experience of mine. So for years I worked freelancing and worked when I could, because basically I wasn't exactly brilliantly well for a very long time, and we got through shitloads of money. Most of my life savings went, nearly all actually, and you know, it was a struggle for a very long time. I got fed up with it all, and then I went, right, okay, I'm going to ask my doctor to refer me to a psychiatrist. You know, I've seen psychologists, counsellors and so on, and they've all been fantastic over the years, but there's clearly something underlying. And so this took me years, okay, before I even considered doing that. I went to see one. Lovely bloke, won't mention names or anything like that, obviously. He was great. One of the things he did, we were just talking through things. Was there for a few visits, diagnoses. I don't have to share them, but you know, nothing. Well, I suppose he did say it's good that you're alive, so that's an achievement. But what I was going to say is that he prescribed me a particular antidepressant, and this one was an SNRI. Now, in the past, many years ago, I had one that was an SSRI. Oh, what is it? Serotonin reuptake inhibitor. I can't remember the first word now, but anyway, I'll look it up, or look it up yourselves. And what happened was I took this particular medication that he gave me. But like certain things to do with medications, it just needed a bit of tinkering. And what happened was I ended up having a test. I went for a blood test, because in this day and age, in the area of like with DNA, there's a field called Pharmacogenomics, or is it Pharmacogenomics or Pharmacogenomics? And what they look at is DNA. So I had a test, went through this blood test, and I didn't have a great reaction to the tablet that he gave me, so I ended up coming off that. But what the test showed was that 3 of the enzymes in my liver that are known to break down the chemistry involved in this particular medication that I was given, of the 3, 1 was brilliant, 1 worked just over 50%ish, around that as a rough guide, and the other one didn't work at all. So what was happening is my liver itself, due to my own genetic makeup, didn't break this particular medication down in the way that it should have, because of me, my own, rather than the actual tablet itself. Okay, so lo and behold, changed medication as a result of that, went on to a different one, and eventually went back to work, and then started working full time. And it was a bit of a struggle to start off with, and you get used to things. But the point being is that, as we say, if you go to a doctor and you're diabetic and they tell you you've got to inject yourself every day, you'd do that. Okay? There's no real difference. If it doesn't feel right after a little while, you can go back. Okay? Talk about it, go back, and then see what it comes up with. As I've said, there's a test that you can do to check with your DNA how it reacts. I'll type it in the headline later on. But so all those things are quite positive. So on that front, I was just going to leave it there and just say to you, basically, don't be scared. There's nothing to be scared of. Ridicule, there's nothing to be scared of. No, sorry about that. That's my brain. No, I would suggest that people just have conversations with people. Talk about it with people. Talk about it with mates. You'll be surprised. You've got no idea how many of your mates have had certain things happen, and they never talk about it. And sometimes to their own detriment, really. When they do have that conversation, it's amazing how much change you can see in people, even down to body language or their face. If you're looking for certain things, it's a fantastic thing. So I would encourage people to talk to people. And now we're post-Christmas and in the new year now and stuff like that, and people have got over all that wonderful celebration and things that they might have done. You're going to have this natural coming down bit from that lovely period down into starting work again and so forth. And people might not be as upbeat because they've just come down from that wonderful experience. So it might be a good time to have conversations with people, because you're not going to feel as great as you did a couple of weeks ago or whatever it was when you were getting presents or you're out celebrating and things like that. So please share your conversation. Just talk to people, and I hope this makes sense and it can help you. It's fine, okay? It's fine to talk. See you later. Bye-bye.